Hello and welcome back to a very different video. Throughout FIFA 21 and FIFA 22, I have done league guides for almost every single league that's on FIFA. However, on FIFA 22, I didn't quite cover as many as I did on the previous game. So before FIFA 23 came out, I thought I would try and do a video where I do at least 1 minute of reviewing every single league on FIFA 22. If I've already done a full video on it, for example the Bundesliga or the Premier League, then you can catch the full videos on my channel. But we're going through every single league in alphabetical order, starting with Belgium and going all the way through to Turkey. So let's get started with the first league, which is the 1A Pro League from Belgium. Now this is a league that I do recommend quite a lot. I know they've got some pretty interesting squad rules, they've got some pretty interesting way that the league actually works with the different promotions and relegations, although not all of them are really in FIFA. They have some pretty interesting teams, Club Brugge, Genk, Ghent, Anderlecht, Antwerp. Even the most interesting in my opinion is Royal Union Saint-Gilloise. They don't have many real stadiums in the Belgium League, but I definitely recommend you check out Royal Union. Not only do they have pretty interesting kit, I always love yellow and blue, I think it goes really well, but they have a very interesting team. They've got even players like Kasper Kozlowski, who's got 85 potential just playing on a subs bench. A 17-year-old Polish attacking midfielder, he's currently on loan from Brighton, but if you can make that permanent, I think they would be by far the best choice in the Belgian First Division. I recommend you give them a try and make sure you check out the Belgian Pro League either on FIFA 22 or on FIFA 23. Staying nearby to Belgium, next up is the German Third Division. If you've ever watched any of my videos where I make a list of the hardest possible career modes, you might know that quite a lot of them do actually come from the German Third Division. That's because they have some teams with really awful squads, they've got really small budgets, and it's actually quite fun to do Road to Glories with a 3-division country. While it might not have as many leagues as England, where they're 4 divisions, Germany can actually be really good for different Road to Glories, especially if you're interested in doing something like a youth save, or if you're interested in signing some of the former German national team who maybe have progressed quite far down the leagues. You might be able to get someone like a Goetze or maybe even a Grosskreutz before you even get promoted, because they are falling off pretty damn fast. In terms of teams that I recommend you use, I think Tegucigalpa München is by far the best on FIFA 22. Not only are they the worst team with the lowest budget in the league, they only have 18 players, one on average. The rest of the teams have at least 25, most of them having 28, but they're actually not going to be on next year's game because they went bust in real life. Of course, they do like to sign a lot of Turkish-based players or Turkish nationality players, so why don't you give it a go and see if you can make a full Turkish side win the Bundesliga. If you want to know more about this, I've done a couple of full videos on this team. I'll link them at the top of the video right now, so click on them if you're interested in Tegucigalpa München. So with the first 2 leagues out of the way, next up is the 3F Superliga in Denmark. Now this is a league personally I also really enjoy, so we've started off with 3 of my favourite leagues to play in. Not only is Denmark one of those leagues that, first of all, can play in the Champions League, which I think is really cool because it's licensed on FIFA, but also the average standard is fairly low. You've got most of the teams being between 64 and 67 rating, but then you also have sort of the end boss if you're playing RPGs. You've got Copenhagen, Midtjylland, Aalborg and Brøndby, who are all a little bit better with a lot bigger transfer budgets. This means you can build up someone like Viborg or Vejle or Nordsjælland, forgive me for any of those pronunciations by the way. You can do a youth only save with one of those, especially Nordsjælland. I think they're really interesting with their Right to Dream Academy links, so look into them if you're interested in a save. Again, I've made a video on them past in FIFA 22 but not on the league. And then you've of course got the objective of trying to win the Euros again with Denmark as they did in the 90s. It's a really fun league. I like the difference in abilities between the players, and I like the way you can use club and country as well as doing a youth only save. It's another league I do recommend, although again they don't have too many licensed stadiums and barely any of the players have real faces. There are a couple of big name Danish players you can bring back to the league as well, which I think is pretty interesting. I always try and do that kind of thing. So again, Denmark is another good league for you to go for. Next up is staying in Scandinavia, is going to be the Allsvenskan in Sweden. Again, this is going to be a league I'm going to struggle with the pronunciation, so do forgive me on this. But they're very similar to Denmark, as in they've got a couple of very good teams at the top of the division, they've got a couple of very bad teams at the bottom of the division, and the average ability isn't really that high. What Sweden has over Denmark though is a couple of more interesting teams. You probably know some of these from playing in Europe themselves in real life. Teams like IFK Göteborg, who are basically the Manchester United of Swedish football. You've got Malmo, who are more like Liverpool. They went on a long streak of not winning anything, but now they're back and winning the league year after year. You've got AIK, who are probably a bit more like Leeds. They're not very liked in Sweden, but again, I love their kits. They've got good European heritage and history. And then you've got a couple of other teams. If you're interested in Create Club, for example, you can do Brompukiana, who have a really massive academy. Something, again, I've made a video on in the past. Not trying to say that over and over again, but I do like making team guides a little bit more than league guides. The next couple of leagues on the list, I have actually already made team guides and league guides for. So why don't you check out my A-League One if you're interested in Australian football, or Bundesliga One if you want to play in the top flight of Germany. But next up is the Bundesliga II. Now, in my opinion, I don't really see why you would want to play in this league unless you're playing as Hamburg or Schalke. If you're interested in a road to glory, you probably do the third division, and if you're interested in playing in a big name team, you would do the first division. So the second division kind of doesn't seem like there's any point actually playing as this. So if you're interested in a semi-road to glory, maybe a shorter one because FIFA's ending, go for the Bundesliga II. They don't really have too many interesting squad rules. They don't have an interesting league system where the league splits and merges. So maybe the Bundesliga II is more of a traditional, you play your 38 matches, I believe it is, or 36 matches, and then the league's just sort of over. Again, if you want to play in the Germany, I would definitely recommend the third division or the first division, and not really the second division. So the next couple of leagues that are on FIFA don't actually have any teams you can play as in career mode. So this is the Italian second division, the Calcio B, and the Czech Republic first division. But next up after that is the Chinese FA Super League. This was a league I used to recommend quite a lot on FIFA 21, but on FIFA 22, basically all of the fun players have left. If you're interested in doing something like the Pentagon Challenge, where you maybe try and win a league on every continent you can on FIFA, it could be a good place to start, but I don't see the point of doing a long-term career mode in China. All of the money has basically left because the government has said you can't do this anymore, and because of this, most of the players, except the likes of Oscar, have already left the country. If you're interested in doing one of the hardest saves on the game possible, they do have a really bad team that doesn't actually exist anymore. Again, I've made a full video on them, so check out the link at the top right of the video right now if you're interested in the hardest possible career mode, which you have to do in this league. But there's nothing really interesting about China in my opinion anymore now that they don't have a league full of aging superstars and big names that you've heard of. The next league that we would be reviewing is the Premier League, which I have done a full video on, as have I done for all of the EFL League. So we're fully skipping England and heading to Norway for the last one we'll do in this video. So Norway, again, is very similar to Sweden, it's very similar to Denmark, except maybe you don't quite know as many of the players. I think as a country, Norway is a bit more interesting geography-wise, and of course, being Geografifa, I am interested in that part of the game. They do actually have the furthest north team on any league on the game in Tromsø, and Bodo Glimt are again a very northern team. I think they're in the Arctic Circle, but I'm not 100% sure, and they're playing in Europe. Of course, they did manage to beat Roma, for example, recently, so there is quite a lot of talent in the Norwegian league, and I'd say it's probably the most successful of the three FIFA Scandinavian leagues. So if you're interested in maybe an even slightly, very tiny bit harder version of the Swedish league, then maybe go for Norway. But I think the teams in the Swedish divisions are a little bit more interesting than the likes of Viking or Sandefjord or Kristiansund, Molde. They've got some heritage, but I don't think they can quite pair up to the Swedish league. So in this video, we've gone through Belgium, German, Denmark, Australian, Swedish, English, Norwegian leagues. And personally, I recommend you look at either Sweden or Denmark. If you want a harder league, maybe slightly better talent, go for Belgium. But I would probably avoid using the Australian leagues and the Chinese leagues because I just don't find them that interesting. They don't have real stadiums, they don't have real continental competitions, and despite me being Europe and probably seeming a little bit xenophobic because of saying that, I don't think there's really that much point playing in any of the Asian leagues that are on FIFA 22 at the moment until they add licensed leagues, and maybe give it a little bit more attention with better graphics and better stadiums, for example. If you've got any suggestions for any divisions you really enjoy, please do put them in the comments below, especially if you can review any of the ones that I've just done in more detail. I do think it would be interesting if you're maybe from Denmark. You could definitely tell us why the Super League is the one for you to pick, when someone like me, who's barely used it on FIFA 22, might only have a prejudged view on it already. But anyway, hopefully you've enjoyed today's video, and I'll be doing another one with the rest of the leagues very soon. I didn't want this to be too long. Subscribe if you don't want to miss that, and like it if you liked any of my opinions on the leagues right now. And I'll see you very soon for another video. Thank you, and I'll see you soon. Goodbye.